Springfield Republican Viewpoint columnist Ron Chimelis is back for one of his regular visits to talk about some of what's been on his mind and in his columns lately. Like just about everybody else these days, we started off discussing the results of the presidential election.
I was not as shocked or surprised as a lot of other people said they were. I've said for over a year, and I don't want to sound like Nostradamus, but I've said that this candidate, Trump, he's getting more of a groundswell of support than a lot of his opponents want to admit. And I think people clouded what they wanted to see with what was happening. And so when he won, I mean, I wasn't bowled over with shock because he had been winning ever since he entered the primaries, and people still waited for the dominoes to fall. Well, they never fell. And there's a lot of reasons for that. They're not all sinister reasons. There's a lot of factors involved with American politics today. It's a complicated situation, and he benefited from it.
And in fairness to you, I will say that here on this program, more than once you said there's something going on here. There's something going on with this Trump phenomenon.
There's a lot of people who weren't really sold on him who were willing to throw in with him. For a lot of different reasons. They weren't all bigots, they weren't all angry, but they were dissatisfied. And there's a lot of reasons for that dissatisfaction. And that all culminated. They had an unpopular Democratic candidate who kind of got in their own way sometimes. That was a factor too. So, you know, people who try to simplify this election and look through historical glasses, they failed on this one because this was an unprecedented situation, at least in my lifetime.
You wrote a column shortly after the election in which you said to folks who are moaning, groaning, whining, as you put it, the title of the column was, Donald Trump won, deal with it.
Well, I didn't write the headline, but I agreed with the headline, and that was what I said. I voted for her. I voted for Hillary Clinton. I'm hoping I'm wrong. I'm hoping that he rises to the challenge of the office. I'm actually seeing some things in his early days as a president-elect that I'm looking for a glimmer of hope. Saying that, I can understand people being upset. I do not use that as an excuse to call in sick from work, to not go to school. I've seen people do that all my life. They look at it as a reason not to do the things that they should do in their own lives. And you and I both know people with real problems, people with illnesses, people with death in their families. I feel for them. Your candidate loses, you can be upset, you can protest in the ways that our government allows us to protest legally and openly, but don't just call off life for a couple of days because you're not happy. Move on and face the reality.
You also wrote something, I was fascinated. I think I read it 3 times, and each time I learned something new and different and took something more away. You talked about how this election kind of affected the way we think, and it showed how we feel and really question all of our institutions. And you said in the future, whether it's President-elect Trump or a future president years into the future, sometime or other we're probably going to have to send troops off to fight again somewhere. What will we ask our troops to fight for?
Well, I say that because I'm an avid fan of World War II history. I wasn't around. My father was in World War II. My impression was he had a pretty clear definition of what we were fighting for, liberty and the things that America stood for, intangible things. I don't think there is any agreement of viewpoint in this country on that right now. There's economic reasons to maintain our power. There's reasons to fight for geopolitical reasons. But when we send people to fight, and that day will come, will we be defending the Constitution, the flag, all the things that we thought we agreed upon, because we don't seem to agree upon what those things represent now? That worries me, because I would not want to send troops for ambivalent reasons. And I'm worried that we will get to that point, hopefully not soon.
I was fascinated by a poll I just saw in the last couple of days, and these are going to be coming out for months, if not years, as they continue to dope out the election results. But it was specific to several of the Midwestern states, and I guess looking at the numbers, you could realize this, but it basically said a lot of folks who voted for Trump voted for Barack Obama in 2008, 2012. They went and talked to some of these people, tracked them down, found Obama, and they said, I just wanted change. I thought it was him then. I think it's Trump now. That's what you've been talking about, isn't it?
Well, I think there's a lot to that. We don't know what we want, but we know we don't want what we've got. I think that's what, if I could sum up the election in one sentence, it might be that one. Obama, when he ran in 2008, I thought was very inspiring. Whether you agreed with all of his policies or not, he motivated people. He did a better job on the campaign trail doing that than he did as a sitting president. And Trump, in a very different way, motivates people now. Whether that translates into leadership, only time will tell. But I do think there was some of that at play.
Okay, enough elections. Unless you want to say something else.
No, I've said more than enough.
Let's talk Chicago Cubs. You better. I think almost everybody. I always thought if you scratch any Red Sox fan, underneath they're also a Cubs fan because those people have suffered even more than Red Sox fans have, even longer. Right? 86 years, 108 years. You've been a Cubs fan since you were a kid.
I've been a Cubs fan for half of those 108, 54 years and still this year.
And they won it all.
And they won it all, and it was great. And I think a lot of people who really didn't care about baseball got into this as well. The TV ratings indicate that because the Cubs did represent that anybody can have their day. Hang in there, keep hoping, even when there's no reason. The Cubs have usually been bad. The Red Sox have usually been good. They haven't always won. The Cubs have usually been pretty bad. So this was a delightful story for me, and I went to Chicago for one of the games, and I saw happy people. I didn't see a lot of happy people during the political season on either side, but I saw a lot of joy from this, and I shared it.
I got to ask you, talk about that. Getting to go, here's a lifelong fan, a student of the game. You love the game, and you got to go to one of the biggest games ever.
And one of the most expensive for me as well. But I said, there's not many events that I would say are once in a lifetime. We throw that term around all the time, but this really has been. I think the Cubs will be good for years, but this was the first time in the World Series. And I said, I can't pass this up. And I think one of the most interesting parts of my travel to Chicago, not just the game, which they lost the game I saw, but the fact that sharing stories with people, why they were there from all over the country, that was very uplifting for me and for a lot of people, I think. I used to live in Illinois. That's why, one reason I'm a big Cubs fan. I'm not a bandwagon guy.
You also wrote a column where you basically said some folks are criticizing Cubs fans for a little too much celebration. I don't see that at all. Red Sox fan, you said, hey, come on. It's not too much. It's not too long. Give them a break.
We'll be celebrating until at least spring training and probably for the next several years, actually. One of the reasons Cubs fans are celebrating again is that the team is very young for the most part and should be good for years. So we paid our dues, Cubs fans. And again, I think a lot of people who aren't passionate Cubs fans can relate to struggle. They can relate to not getting success, and now there is some success. Even Indians fans who are very disappointed at this outcome seem to understand why so much of the country was rooting for the Cubs.
You also love chess.
Yes, I do.
And you very directly call it a sport, which you defend very strongly. You recently went to New York City to watch and report on the World Chess Championship.
And it was a very unique experience. I call chess a sport because it is physically and mentally draining. By the way, I've convinced no one that it's a sport, but I still believe it is. I think it's fascinating. The World Championships are going on. They're much closer than people expected. The champion is from Norway. The challenger is from Russia, which has been a chess power, and it's tied as we speak. And we watch this not just see what happened, but we try to guess along with what's going to happen. And that makes us participants in a game 25 levels above where we are. I enjoyed it. It's in New York, the championships. I think it's a great game for kids. I think it's a great game for all ages. You don't have to be a grandmaster. And I think if more people understood what it was all about, more people would love it.
Ron Chimelis, always great to have you in. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Jim.